All right, you guys, so jumping into question number 20 here. If we take a look at the answer choices, what do you notice, right? You notice pronouns. So you know you're being tested on pronouns for this particular question, right? Now, guys, when you identify what the SAT is testing you on, don't try to be so perfect at it. Sometimes for the harder questions, the SAT can test you on more than one concept. Right? For the basic or the easy questions, they will usually just test you on one concept like subject verb agreement or pronoun, like singular, plural pronouns. For the more advanced or for the harder level difficulty questions, the SAT will test you, or they can test you on more than one concept, right, for a single question. So just know that. But when you do identify that they're testing you on pronouns, right? That's enough. Just start with one concept, right? And engage the passage. Okay. Don't try to figure out every single small thing that they're testing you on. It's going to be a waste of your time. But you know they're testing you on pronouns. So cool. Now you can go ahead and read the passage, keeping pronouns in mind. Right now, guys, pro tip is when you're tested on pronouns, don't make pronouns harder than it needs to be. Okay. Pronouns just have to be two things, right? They have to be grammatical and they have to be logical. Okay, so what does it mean for pronouns to be grammatical? A grammatical pronoun is basically when we have a pronoun that has a noun that it can replace, right? So we know that pronouns are just general words that replace nouns, right? The nouns that pronouns replace are called antecedents, right? So an antecedent is nothing more than just a specific noun. It's a noun that a pronoun, a general word, replaces. Right. So, for example, if I say, Mary is a girl, right? She is a wonderful cook, right? So, who is she referring to? Well, she has the antecedent, the noun, right? Mary. So, we would say that she is grammatically correct, right? So, that pronoun is grammatical. Right? But we also know that pronouns need to be logical as well. So, they have to make logical sense. And how do you know if something makes logical sense? Well, you read, right? You read to understand, right, what the most logical pronoun or whether or not this pronoun is created logically, right, or used logically. So don't make this harder than it needs to be, you guys. All you have to do is just read with the focus on understanding, right, what the information is talking about. That's it. Okay, so we'll go through that exercise together here for this particular question. So it says, spiders, engaging in a remarkable behavior known as ballooning, propel themselves into the air by releasing silk threads that catch the wind. Ballooning allows spiders to travel vast distances, sometimes hundreds of miles, across land and sea. This astonishing ability, which even enables them to colonize new territories, relies on the spider's instinctive use of atmospheric electricity to lift themselves into the sky. Okay, so my question to you is to lift who, right? Or to lift, right? To lift what, right? To lift who or what into the sky. That's the answer, the logical answer, right? That you're trying to figure out. So the correct answer to this question has to be has to make logical sense, right? So this is why when you just read the passage, you ask yourself, well, hey, uh, the spider's instinctive use of atmospheric electricity to lift who into the sky? Like who or what are they lifting? Right now, logically, you all know the answer to this. When you just read the passage, you know that the spiders are lifting themselves, right? They're lifting themselves into the sky, right? Because we know the passage is talking about how the spiders do something to themselves, right? They're actually propelling themselves into the air. They're like flying, right? So we know based on what this passage is talking about, logically, the answer to this question, right? Who or what is the spider lifting? Well, they're lifting themselves, right? So we know that the correct answer here is going to be A. And this is what I mean, you guys, is don't make pronouns more complicated than they need to be. Right? Pronouns are very basic and very straightforward, right? As long as you keep those two things in mind, right? Pronouns have to make a grammatical sense and they have to make logical sense. We already talked about the logical sense, right? Based off of the context of this passage. Now, what about the grammatical sense, right? Why is themselves grammatically correct, right? Well, one, we know that themselves is a plural pronoun, right? Because the them is plural, right? Now, why is that grammatical, right? Why is it not itself? Right? Well, it's not itself because it's referring to the spiders, right? Spiders in a plural sense. If we have spiders with the apostrophe after the S, this is referring to the plural possessive form. It's the plural form of the possessive, right? So we know that the passage or the sentence is referring to many spiders, right? It's referring to spiders in plural, right? So because it's referring to spiders, because the noun, right, is plural, we have to have a pronoun, right, that matches that plural noun. So this is why the pronoun has to be plural as well, right? So this is why grammatically we don't want to say itself because it's not just referring to one spider, a singular spider, it's referring to many spiders, right? So this is why A would be grammatically correct. Now also, so we know that it and itself would be wrong. Why would them be wrong grammatically? Well, them would be wrong both grammatically and logically, right? Because if I said the spider's instinctive use of atmospheric electricity to lift them into the sky, then you ask yourself, well, who are they lifting into the sky, right? To lift them into the sky. To lift them into the sky kind of means it's kind of sounds like the spiders are using electricity to lift something else into the sky, right? They're lifting something else, right? They're lifting them into the sky versus themselves. Can you guys hear that? Right? And so this is where it doesn't make logical sense because who are they lifting into the sky if it's not themselves? Right? We also don't, so there's nothing in the passage that tells us, right, that that logically they could be lifting something else, right? And there's also nothing grammatically, right, that they could be lifting other than themselves. Right? So are they lifting what are some other plural nouns in this passage, right? Is it the threads? Doesn't make any logical sense, right? So this is where them kind of breaks down, okay? Them refers to other things, right? Things other than the spiders themselves, right? Versus themselves is referring to the spiders, okay? So let me go one step further for you guys and teach you guys a foundational teach you guys something a foundational knowledge piece, right, about English grammar. And that really refers, I'm going to be helping you guys out with some of this with these self words. So these self words, words like itself, himself, myself, themselves, ourselves, right? These self words grammatically, how do we use them, right? Well, self words can be used in two different ways in the English language, but I'll just teach you guys one of them. So one of the ways that self words can be used is as a reflexive pronoun. Okay, think about that word reflex, reflect, right? So a reflexive pronoun is a pronoun that reflects the action of the verb back on the subject. Let me say that again, right? A reflexive pronoun reflects the action of the verb back onto the subject of the sentence. So if I say something like this, if I say Jack hit himself in the head, right? So this self word, can you guys see how it reflects the action of the verb? What's the action of the verb? It's to hit, right? That's the action. Right? So the self word reflects the action of the verb back onto the subject. So who did Jack hit? Well, he hit himself, right? So it's hitting himself, right? So it's referring to Jack, it's reflecting the action of the verb back onto the subject, Jack, right? But now if I say Jack hit him, what if I say Jack hit him? Now, doesn't that kind of imply or suggest that Jack's hitting someone else, not himself? Right? So that's the difference between a reflexive pronoun, the self used by the self word, versus just a regular object pronoun itself. Okay, and so knowing that difference is going to be extremely helpful, right? So that'll be helpful for you guys to know because sometimes the SAT does test you on pronouns, and when they do, or sometimes they test you on self words. And when they do, they're usually testing you on this concept here, reflexive pronouns, right? So just learn it, memorize it. But I think more importantly, you guys, remember the key takeaway for pronouns is um, pronouns, don't make them harder than they need to be. They're pretty straightforward. Remember that pronouns just have to be, you have to check for two things. Pronouns have to be grammatically correct and they have to be logically correct, right? So they have to make grammatical sense and logical sense. And so make sure that the pronoun, like the singular pronoun, has a singular noun that it can refer to, or make sure that the plural pronoun has a plural noun that it can refer to, right? But also make sure that it makes logical sense, right? So just read the passage to understand what the passage is talking about. And then you can ask yourself that question, like we just did here, right? Who is the spider lifting, right? The spider's using electricity to lift what, or to lift who? And so based off of your understanding of the context, you should be able to figure out the logical answer to that question. All you have to do is think a little bit. All you have to do is read to understand a little bit. And you should be able to figure these pronoun questions out very relatively easily, with a lot of confidence, and in a very sort of time efficient way. Okay, guys, that'll do it for this video. Please share and like this video. Share this video with somebody who you think kind of needs it. Like the video as well. I'm trying to get this message out to as many people as possible, and I'm committed to helping millions of kids to master the SAT, right? To be able to get fewer than 5 wrong consistently on the reading and writing sections. I've worked with over 7,000 kids helping them do this, and I'm very confident in my abilities to do this. I've never done it online before, just all in person, physical classroom type of stuff. So this is my first sort of foray into the digital space like this. And I know that it's going to take some time, and I know that I can't do it all myself. So I would love your guys' help in spreading this word. If you found value in it, please like it and share with someone else, because if you found value in it, I can guarantee that someone else will too. Okay. Please let me know in the comments, you guys, one thing that you learned that was new, or one thing that you learned even better. And also please share with me something else that you want to learn, something that you're curious about when it comes to English grammar for the SAT. Okay. Otherwise, you guys, I'll see you in the next video. Remember to always stay curious, always keep learning, and just keep moving forward, you guys. You got this. Take care.